is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans, with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, and Jason Eidsmoe. We're talking Padres, Chargers, and Aztec sports.
Gotta hit it to the right place. And he hits it out to center. Right center. Blackman's got a long way to go. He's still going.
Off the wall.
And it is off the wall. It takes a funny hop. Kemp is rounding second. He's heading to third.
Gotta go.
And Matt Kemp into third base with a triple and the first cycle in the history of the San Diego Padres.
He will hand it off. Tomlinson plows his way towards the goal line. LaDainian Tomlinson, one step closer to football immortality. Tomlinson has tied the single-season record. And the handoff to Tomlinson. Left side, and he will gallop into the end zone. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
Pope thought about it. Now steps up. And the freshman hits the jumper at the buzzer.
Well, this kid is some prospect. Big time length, big time game.
Pope straightaway three. Count it. Malik Pope. Pope off glass and good. On the other end, Joel doesn't miss that one. Shepard alley-oop to Pope. He got up there. Oh, wow.
It's time to let your voice be heard.
All right, it's Wednesday, it's 7 o'clock. That means it's time for the San Diego Sports Junkies, which is a little bit funny because the last 5 or 6 Wednesdays, it has not been time for the San Diego Sports Junkies. We took about a month and a half sabbatical, we'll call it, kind of trying to we all have things that come up, we all get busy, and it was just seemed like a really, really good time so we can get focused in for the draft. But we are back. We appreciate everybody hanging in there. Just in case, if depending on how you're listening to us right now, you can find us, of course, live on Spreaker. And if you're listening to us on Spreaker, you can join us in the chat room. If not on there, you can find us on iHeartRadio, on Stitcher, on iTunes, and TuneIn Radio. And then you can follow us on Twitter at Sports Junkies SD. This week, we are going to be talking about the Chargers draft from the offensive side of the ball. I'm joined right now by Jake Hefner, staff writer at boltsfromtheblue.com. Jake, man, it's been a long time. How you doing?
Been too long, sir. Doing good.
Yes, it's been it has been really, really long. I really, really miss doing the show. We're going to be talking Chargers draft from the offensive side of the ball for probably the first 45 minutes today, and then we're going to bring on Mike Maciejewski from Aztecs Hoops Nation. He's actually going to be coming in at 7:45 to talk about the Padres. The Padres season started, but I kind of want to give you guys an overall update of what we're going to be doing this month. Of course, today we're going to be talking about Chargers offensive side of the draft. Next Wednesday, April 12th, we're going to switch over to the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to be talking general draft, what the Chargers should be looking for, what the Chargers should be doing on the defensive side of the ball. Wednesday, April 19th, that's going to be our last chance to actually talk draft before the draft, because on Thursday, April 27th, it's not only is it the draft, but we're having a very, very fun thing we're going to be doing. One of the things that during the month and a half that I had off, it gave me some opportunity. I had some chance to, I got my passport, I assembled my team of sled dogs, and we are going to be going up north to Casa, or the estate of Jake Hefner, to do a live draft show. We had to get all of our background checks done so we could be allowed into the building. But we will be going up to Jake Hefner's house and doing a live draft show. And, man, I can't wait to do it, Jake. We appreciate you inviting us up there.
Absolutely. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a good turnout of people. It's kind of going to have a Cali Comfort type of feel for the people that are going to be there, wanting to talk, obviously give their opinions. So what was it that we had figured out that we're going to go on about? I believe it was around 2, have a 2-hour show before the draft kicks off.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get on about 2, do a couple hour show. Then we'll sign off, maybe have a couple adult beverages, get a couple bites to eat, visit a little bit with all the people that are there, and then we're going to come back on and do a live show actually during the draft. And we'll have it won't just be us. We'll have other people there. We'll have and you're right, it's going to have kind of a Cali Comfort field. We're going to have other huge fans up there. People will be coming in and out of the show. We'll have mics live up there for everybody, and I just look. It's a lot of fun. The draft is it's an event in the NFL, and it's I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun up there.
Indeed, yeah, I can't wait for it. It's going to be great.
So like I said, we're going to be spending the first 45 minutes of the show talking draft. One thing that's been talked about a lot over the last month and a half is whether or not the Chargers, and since we're sticking on the offensive side of the ball, this is perfect time, whether or not the Chargers are going to draft themselves a quarterback. I'm as big of a Phillip Rivers fan as there is. Love Phillip Rivers, and I love what he said. He's realistic. He says, I understand I'm not going to play forever. You know, they need to do what they're going to do, but just so they know, any quarterback, I'm paraphrasing, of course, any quarterback they draft, he better plan on sitting a few years. I read that, and I love that, Jake. What were your thoughts on that when he said that?
Well, I think it's, almost a weird full circle for Phillip Rivers, considering that when he was drafted, he had to sit for 2 years behind Drew Brees. So, turnabout's fair play. And I love it just because it's not from a standpoint of saying that Phillip's not going to be supportive or not going to take the role of, a mentor as far as, getting someone up to, learn some of the things that they need to learn. But Phillip is still the leader of this team. Regardless what anybody wants to say, regardless what you want to say, it's time to finally draft the heir apparent for him, is the best thing to do at this point in time right now is to still have Phillip Rivers as your starting quarterback. If you want to invest in a young arm to bring up, then so be it. But they're not going to be starting anytime soon, in the words of Phillip Rivers. Which is fine,
which tells me, I love it when you talk about draft because, and we're guilty of it as well. We keep saying, we'll say, you think they should draft a quarterback, and somebody will say, yeah, I think they should draft one probably within the first 2 or 3 rounds. And then you say, well, should they draft an offensive lineman? Yeah, they should draft one in the first 2 or 3 rounds. How about a safety? Yeah, that should be an early draft pick. How about a rush linebacker? Oh, yeah, definitely an early draft pick. They only have, if we're talking about the first 2 rounds, they only have 2 picks. You can't just pile all of these guys into the first 2 rounds. The Chargers there's 7 rounds in the NFL draft. The Chargers have 7 picks. They have 1 pick in each round right now. And you can't just, if you're going to draft a quarterback in the first or second round, you're basically, I don't know if I want to say you're wasting a draft pick, but you are taking a draft pick and you are basically applying it to somebody who is not going to help you at all for the next 2, 3, 4 years. And I personally don't want to see them do that. What are your thoughts on that, drafting a quarterback? If they're going to draft one late, the odds of a late draft quarterback being developed into a starting NFL quarterback are very, very slim. But if they're going to draft one, I say 6th or 7th round, honestly. What are your thoughts on the quarterback, and where should they be going if you think they should be drafting one?
If you're thinking that the Chargers are going to draft a quarterback 6 and 7, I'll have to disagree with you. Even with the 6 or the 7 picks that they have in this draft, let's just say that the Chargers don't trade down, they don't trade up, they stay exactly where they are for the second year in a row. I seriously think that they will consider pulling the trigger on a quarterback anywhere from rounds 2 to 4. I really do. But here's the kicker: I would rather see them take a quarterback in a situation because where they're at number 7. Where they currently sit in the first round, it almost feels a little bit like no man's land, depending on who's going to be there. There's been a lot of talk about Malik Hooker, Jamal Adams, obviously being there. Obviously, the need is there for safety. You're talking about possibly getting, 1A and 1B of the 2 best safeties in this class. So do you go ahead and take them, or does someone want to make a deal, and do you trade down? And if it's me, considering where you still need to build around this team, if you're getting an extra second-round pick, whatever the package is, if you're getting a second-round pick, then in my opinion, it's fully worth the investment to make a move, to make a change. And you still stay in the first round. You take, obviously, whatever the board is going to give you at that point, depending on how far you drop. But if you can acquire an extra second-round pick, I think in that circumstance, for the quarterbacks that are in this draft, and especially with unexpectedly, I know that a lot of people have given this quarterback draft class grief, and justifiably so. But it always happens this way because quarterbacks are such in demand and so hard to find a signal caller that watch on day one of the draft, there are going to be more quarterbacks than you think that are going to end up going in the first round, which is only going to make them even more valuable on day two to have people pick them. So if the Chargers can find themselves in a situation that would be ideal, they would trade out of number 7, acquire an extra second round pick, and draft a signal caller with one of those two. That would be my ideal situation. If they stay pat, then I would consider it anywhere between rounds 2 and 4.
First of all, every single year we talk about the Chargers trading down. Every single year I say I want them to trade down. Trading down is a lot harder to do than because nobody ever. It just never happens. I kind of put my wish list. I'm coming around to. I'm so happy he's not on right now too, because I don't want him to hear this. I'm coming around to the Mike Maciejewski way of thinking, and he always just talks about it: offensive line, defensive line, offensive line, defensive line, and I completely agree with him. I'm on the. I wrote down here in the first 2 or 3 rounds, I would love to see the Chargers draft 2 offensive linemen within the first 3 rounds. Now, looking at this draft, and I have not looked at it anywhere near as deep as you have, Jake. I just have not. I don't see if we draft any offensive lineman with our first pick with our 7th pick in the first round, it's going to be a reach. It's going to have to be a reach. There's no offensive lineman worthy of the 7th pick right now. Who knows down the road when you look at them, and they might you might look back and say, oh, that guy was worth it. But right now there's nobody worth it, which kind of bums me out, because I think that we need help at the offensive line, and before we really dive too deep in where we're going to put the first pick offensive line wise, I'm going to ask you about a few guys here that are currently on the roster, and you tell me whether or not they're good enough to start, or we need to find maybe we should be drafting someone to replace him. And we're going to start with Matt Slauson in the middle. Are you satisfied going into next season with him starting at center?
My answer might surprise you here. I don't see Matt Slauson starting at center.
Neither do I. Neither do I. I'm right on board with you.
His versatility at guard to replace the DJ Fluker spot may give the Chargers an extra option to not have to draft an offensive lineman so early, or make that a valuable need, especially at the guard position. Then, of course, you bring in Max Turek, your 3rd-round pick last year, who probably, from my standpoint, for what I wanted for the kid coming off of injury, the best thing that could have happened to him is that he got a year to sit and learn. Now put him into the offensive line, take Slauson's spot, and there you go. Now you've changed 2 things on the offensive line, but that gets some use out of your 3rd-round pick, and it's an easy fill for one of your guard spots.
Exactly. I agree with you completely. And not only did Max Turek get a chance to sit and learn, but he got a chance to go through an NFL strength and conditioning program. There'll be lots of arguments whether or not the Chargers have a good one of those or not, but the bottom line is he got a chance to get himself physically 1 year bigger, 1 year stronger. I would be very, very comfortable going into the season with Max Turek as my starting center, Matt Slauson is my starting guard. Spencer Pulley, I was really, really happy with what I saw from him in preseason. Towards the end of the season, though, when Matt Slauson did go out, I did see quite a drop-off at the center position. And maybe that's not fair, because I don't remember where Spencer Pulley was drafted. He wasn't even drafted. He was undrafted. Is that right?
He was undrafted, that's right.
So kind of expecting him to step in at the center position maybe was not fair. I do like him as a swing guy, though, being able to play center and guard. I think that he's an asset to the team. So Matt Slauson and Max Turek starting there, I'm very comfortable with that. Donovan Clark, he got hurt. He was a 5th-round draft choice if I'm
7th rounder last year.
I'm going off of my memory, which everybody knows is poor. We didn't really get a chance to see him. He got injured early. What are your hopes for him this year? Do you think that there's any chance of him getting some time on the field, or is he just going to be a backup this year?
If Joe Barksdale has a sequel to last season, then I see it 100%. Donovan Clark, in my opinion, from the hype that we started to hear about it. Now, again, premature. I know we haven't seen him out on an NFL field yet. He was still a 7th-round pick, but this guy has the prototypical right tackle body that you would like to see. He can actually play a multitude of positions around the line if he needs to. But if he can come in and perform well during training camp, during preseason, obviously keep himself healthy. And if at some point mid-season Joe Barksdale is starting to rescend into the flashes of what we saw him do last year, it wouldn't shock me if Donovan Clark would end up being the eventual replacement at the right tackle position if he plays well, obviously. And this could even leave you as an insurance to drop Barksdale after this season if it ultimately ends up, faring out a wrong way. But if not, then I think you got a quality depth guy who, in case anybody does get injured, that you can move around in spot duty. I think he's definitely capable of developing into a really, really solid player. He just obviously needs the time. He's going to need more of the playing snaps that he missed throughout preseason. So I don't want to hype the kid up too much. I mean, I really like his potential that he's got. Again, no guarantees of what's ultimately going to happen with him. I hope, from the standpoint, from the dollars that we're paying Barksdale, that he's ultimately going to perform better this season. But right now, what you have in Donovan Clark, I think, is a great depth at right tackle. So that is good insurance. And if need be, hey, maybe we'll see it in the middle of the season next year if anything requires a change. But right now, I think you got a good depth guy at the right tackle position.
Yeah, because the Chargers did release King Dunlap, signed Russell Okung. We'll have to see. How well that pans out. Obviously, everybody's got to assume that that's going to be an upgrade. King Dunlap was a shell of what he was his first season, whether it was because of injuries or because of attitude or because of whatever. He just was not the same King Dunlap. So we got the upgrade there. I still as optimistic as I look at these players, and we got Orlando Franklin. We're all assuming that he's gonna find out how to play, not be injured and play better. You got Kenny Wiggins, who just he's a fill-in guy. He can play a lot of different positions. I think more the merrier. I think you need to have more choices because, as optimistically as we look at players like this, they never ever pan out. You're always one of them's going to go down for the year early. That always happens, and you're going to have guys underperforming. I still say, even if you look at the roster and you think, I think we have an actual a guy at every position that I'm comfortable with, I still would like to see the Chargers within the first 3 rounds draft 2 offensive linemen. Is that a little bit too aggressive on the offensive line, Jake?
No, and I can understand why you'd say that. I mean, you'd want something at the tackle position. You'd want something probably at the guard position again, because you don't know with some of the rotational guys that we ended up bringing back on short-term contracts if they're going to be around next year or if they're ultimately even going to make it out of camp. Yeah. So, I mean, with the Chargers offensive line, you know how they always say, like, oh, you can never have too many defensive backs. It's the other way around for the Chargers. You can never have too many offensive linemen is what it should be realistically. So, no, it doesn't sound too aggressive. I've seen people in mock drafts, give two offensive linemen to the Chargers during the draft, maybe not within the first 3 rounds, but you're still building depth at that position. So, I mean, I think that's admirable of you to think that way. Realistically, I think at most within the first 3 rounds, you're going to get only 1. But I like where your focus is.
Yeah, I'm just tired of guys underperforming and getting injured and us having to plug holes or I don't know. I need the depth. I need the depth at the offensive line. I need that to be not such a worrisome point. I still think that drafting one in the first round, though, is probably a bit of a request that's trying to come in. I got to try and add him now. Request that's trying to join us. I'm going to try and see if I can get him to add in. I don't remember how to do that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to let me see here. We're going to come back. We're going to be talking about the more about what the Chargers need to do on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to try and get requested in here to join us. He was a big part of the show towards the end when we were doing the last few shows before we took our break, but we'll be right back. We'll be right back on the other side.
Do you need help with your business project that is due? Maybe you need business cards to help your business stand out. We at San Diego Sports Junkies got you covered. SK Digital Imaging can do it all. Give our buddy Sean K a call, 858-408-0732. SK Digital Imaging, from business cards to the bigger projects, SK Digital Imaging and our buddy Sean K will get your printing done right.
All right, we are back. I'm still trying to get requested to join us. Hopefully, I think he has to do it on his end. He's trying to call in. I think he has to join into the group here. We're using something new here that we've only used a couple times. Jake, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, good. I'm struggling through this here. I'm a little bit out of practice. Let's keep moving on here. So quarterback-wise, you said that you'd like to. Now you'd like to see the Chargers spend between the second and the fourth round on a quarterback. If we go from if we go like sixth or seventh round, which is where I'd like to go, because I think that it's a wasted pick this year, and I'm all about let's make something happen right now. Do you think that using a quarterback in the sixth and the seventh, we're just flushing the pick down the toilet? Do you think that that's too far back to realistically think that we're going to be finding someone to replace Phillip Rivers?
I do, honestly, because I think if you're going to get down to that far, then you're probably only going to have a quarterback that's equal to where Mike Bercovici is right now. With him now having a year under his belt, and remember, he was an undrafted kid that we brought in through the preseason last year. Ultimately, I think that would probably just be an equal pick to that. You have to bring in some type of competition. Again, you don't know. You don't even know if Kellen Clemens is ultimately going to make it out of training camp. That's not guaranteed that he's going to come back. I'm even surprised that he actually got a contract offer and signed that for those depth purposes. So right now the Chargers have 3 quarterbacks on their roster. So if the Chargers have been this intent in their searching, their scouting, their coaching appearances, their private workouts, I think they actually have some serious intent of drafting one higher than the 6th or 7th, because if you do that, I personally think if it was at that point, then it is really a wasted pick. Then might as well just, be done with this year and move on to next year when the quarterback class is going to be way greater.
Yeah, Bercovici, it was interesting because we were all really high on him last year, and I think they were kind of hoping that he would be able to take over the second position on the depth chart. And unfortunately for him, that fourth game, he kind of he was kind of exposed a little bit. Do you think that he has made that jump from last year to this year? Do you think that, we of course haven't been following him super close, at least I haven't been. I don't know how close you have been. Do you think that he is ready to make that jump to actually be a backup quarterback, or do you think that that we're looking at another year Kellen Clemens?
I think if we're taking it, as this day, April 5th, 2017, he's still right now would be another either Kellen Clemens or less than a Kellen Clemens, if that. He never got really any playing time anywhere, even when the Chargers released him. So he's had all this time to do his homework, whatever it is that he's done. Obviously, the organization saw something in him during last preseason. They thought it was worth for him to come back to camp to see what he's learned. Obviously, when he was playing in a lot of those games, he wasn't really protected against the best offensive line.
Yeah.
So I think it was like three straight snaps that he was sacked.
Yeah.
So, you really get a chance to see a lot of this guy. But if you go back and you look at his college tape, if he can replicate any of that type of success that he did while he was there and bring it to the pro level, again, he's going to be better. He should be better than what he was last preseason. And I think that's what the coaches are expecting to see from him. So, again, you still need to bring in competition, though, to battle it out. And I think, there's a gentleman by the name of Dion Caputi who's on Twitter. I'm not sure if you follow him at all, Jason, but he actually put out the perfect tweet that I put in one of my articles. He said, let me reiterate, this draft is perfect if you are looking for a signal caller to develop 2 or 3 years from now. If you're looking for someone to start for you today, it's slim pickings.
Yeah. Well, we're not that is not what we're looking for. Someone to start for us today, but like I said, I worry, and maybe I'm too far down, because the more I think about it, if you're gonna use a 6th or 7th round draft choice on a quarterback, you might just be flushing that choice down the toilet. Danny Woodhead, he headed off to the Ravens. He left the Chargers, went to the Ravens, which is, I'm super bummed because I really liked him. But the more you think about it, we really didn't get him the last couple of years. Injuries not his fault. He unfortunately came to San Diego and drank the water, which automatically makes all of your tendons weak. He's gone to the Ravens. First question I have to ask you is, did the Chargers really make an attempt to bring him back, or did they just kind of let him go?
I believe that they did. From what I had heard from both, I thought it was his agent that came out, I want to say a month before free agency, and Telesco even came out publicly and said that they had put an offer out on the table to him. There was never any details as far as what it was. But yeah, absolutely. I think that they tried to retain him. And again, I actually thought he was going to stick because of the Anthony Lynn ties going all the way back to the Jets back in 2010 when Woodhead was part of that running back group. So I actually thought he was a shoo-in to stay just because of that. He had the prior relationship, and I thought Anthony Lynn would have made a good push to keep him. But whatever it is that happened behind closed doors that eventually led Woodhead out of here, it's unfortunate. Fan favorite, great guy, obviously great production when he was able to get healthy, tremendous weapon. But I think when it came down to it, you look at the rest of the Chargers running backs that you have. You obviously had a great sophomore development from Melvin Gordon in his year 2. You've got Kenneth Farrow, who you're going to hope to try to develop, and you picked up Kenyon Barner. But this running back class is also insanely deep. And no disrespect to Danny Woodhead because of the things that he's done for the Chargers over the last couple of years, what he's done since he's been in the league. But there are other people that you can find that can do the things that Danny Woodhead can do, and especially in this draft, because there's plenty of running backs. And the way that Anthony Lynn wants to run the ball, it may be a whole different type of scheme that we're looking at by the time the season starts.
Yeah, that was my next question I was going to ask you, is without Danny Woodhead, which, I'll be honest with you, the best thing that could have happened to Melvin Gordon was Danny Woodhead getting injured. And that's a terrible thing to say, but for his development, what a difference Melvin Gordon was at the end of the year from the beginning, and that was because he was asked to do a whole lot more, and he did it well. But currently on the roster, replacing Danny Woodhead, I hate saying that because we've been doing that whole who's the next Darren Sproles thing for how many years now, and it's not really fair, but let's do it anyways. Danny Woodhead's role on the Chargers is going to be replaced by who? Brandon Oliver. You brought up Kenneth Farrow. Kenyon Barner Kenyon Barner's supposed to have all the speed. He was with I believe with the Eagles. But does anybody really know that much about him? Does he have the skill set to replace someone like Danny Woodhead, or is he brought in mostly for special teams, or is he just going to be a camp guy?
I don't know. What I can honestly tell you right now, and this is how much I respect Danny Woodhead, is that the replacement for him is not on that roster right now.
Okay.
It's not. And I say that for a couple of different reasons. You don't just look at what Danny brought to the pass game, but you look at the pass protection as well as what he was able to do. He was probably the best one that we had out of that entire running back crop, which, he didn't do too much of it, but when he did it, he did it, he was exceptional at it. He wasn't the best at it, but, on third down, he was really a luxury from more than what just people saw him do when he had the ball in his hands. So right now, in my opinion, the Danny Woodhead replacement is not on the Chargers roster right now.
Now, the next thing I have to ask you is, are they going to look to draft his replacement? And here's what worries me. Here's one thing that Danny Woodhead brought that people always overlook, and that's pass protection. The Chargers do not have the simplest of pass protection we'll call it scheme. We got Phillip Rivers out there barking protections out there all the way up until 1 second left on the clock, and everybody has to be on the same page, and whoever's currently lined up right next to him is probably one of the most important. I'm worried because that's one thing that Danny, although like I said he wasn't on the team last year, but that's one of the things that Danny Woodhead was really good at, and I agree with you. I don't think any of the guys on the roster have that skill set, and no matter how good of a pass blocker the guy that they draft is, he's not going to be that good year one. Would you agree with that, or do you think that it's possible to get somebody in there who is able to pick it up good enough to do it on third down?
Well, I mean, I think that should be the goal of, analyzing any type of running back before you take them. What are the assets that this person brings in? And if you can get a guy who has, all three aspects of not only running, pass catching, and pass blocking on top of that, that's what should go into an evaluation for somebody. And a guy who I've had my eyeball on as kind of a sleeper type of guy, you and Justin actually should know him really well from your time watching San Diego State.
Yep.
But it's Jeremy, but it's not Donnell Pumphrey.
No.
But it's Jeremy McNichols out of Boise State.
Yeah.
And I thought from his skill set of what he does, for his speed, for his vision, for what he's able to do in the pass catching game, but he's also an exceptional blocker as well. I mean, again, he's going to have time to develop and get better at it as time goes along. But I think that he's a guy who could adequately come into that position, and maybe not right away, but eventually over time really come into that type of role and be that type of third down scat back that you'd really like to see.
Yeah, and unfortunately, fortunately actually for us, is we've got Melvin Gordon, who's got one more year under his belt. He learned kind of by fire last year, and he got much better at it towards the end of the year. So we might not need to replace Danny Woodhead with just one guy. I think Melvin Gordon's going to actually see the field a lot more on third down with this upcoming year without Danny Woodhead on the field. So we got, we're talking about replacing Danny Woodhead. We've talked about quarterbacks. I talked about my wish to draft offensive linemen. Let's go ahead and steer back to that because that's really important to me. Who are some offensive linemen worthy of high draft picks from the Chargers? And somebody that we talked about a little bit but before the show started was the Cam Robinson from Alabama. Some people are high on him, some people are not. I'm kind of interested on what Jake Hefner feels about him. I didn't watch a ton of Alabama games, but it seemed like he did a lot of false starts on the games that I watched, which wasn't very impressive to me. But what are your thoughts on Robinson from Alabama?
I've never really been high on, and I think the rest of the draft analysts and scouts around the league, I think have started to feel the exact same way. Because remember, right when the season ended, there was a bunch of people that were saying, "Oh yeah, Cam Robinson, top 10 pick," and then shortly, just weeks later, it was like, okay, maybe he's in the teens. Okay, now he's getting mocked to the mid to late 20s. Which, in my opinion, is the perfect spot for him to get drafted around there. And it's from a combination of a different amount of things. Alabama. So, I mean, he's a terrific run blocker. If that's what your offensive scheme is going to be going through, then he's the right guy for that. His pass blocking has a little bit to be desired. He's a little bit quick-footed, or not quick-footed, but he's not too light on the feet. And so he can be exposed against really, really fast pass rushers. So those are going to end up being a challenge for him. Most of the time through their schemes, they work with tight ends that are doing chip blocks and are more dominant in the running game that way. So he's got a little bit more assistance when it's next to him. So I'd be interested to see if you're running him in an offense that's not built strictly around that. What is he going to do when he's kind of it's just him one-on-one against the defender? So people have given him the Cordy Glenn from Buffalo Bills NFL comparison because of just, his size measurables, obviously. But, I think he's got enough starting experience that over time he could develop into a solid offensive lineman. But again, I think unless his pass blocking gets really shored up, I personally see another version of DJ Fluker in Cam Robinson.
Yeah, they come from the same school, of course. And that was kind of where I was kind of aiming towards is DJ Fluker. He came out of Alabama. He came to the Chargers. If you look at him, you can't question how hard he worked. You can't question how hard he tried. You can't question his passion for the game. You can't question his passion for playing the offensive line. Why did DJ Fluker not work out here? What was the problem with DJ Fluker? Why were we so willing to let him go? Because we were just so unimpressed with his development.
It's 2 years at guard, 2 years at tackle. If it's not working at either of those positions by now, I think the reason is irrelevant. Again, you brought it up best. You can't question his passion for the game, his toughness. He was still one of the toughest starting five that was out there. Great personality, great person. I take nothing away from the man as a person or a player. But for the Chargers to have him for 4 years and to have him be as spotty as he would be in certain levels of the game, or more so majority levels of the game, unfortunately, when you try to work him at two different positions for 2 years and you've given him every opportunity possible to have success in your offense, it didn't work. And that could have been through a number of combination of things. Remember how many offensive line coaches came through for the Chargers over the last couple of years that DJ basically had to adapt to. We have another offensive line coach for this next year that we're going to have to adapt to. So there was a lot of change. I personally think that some of it was timing. Obviously, some of it was scheme. I don't think that the coaching really fully understood how they wanted to utilize DJ Fluker. And I think that was because for the first 2 years that DJ was here, there wasn't a legitimate running game that the Chargers had. It became still against Phillip Rivers. So you were making a guy who was dominant in his college career for run blocking strictly just a pass rushing type of guy. And unfortunately, it just didn't pan out for him. And unfortunately, at that point either, you didn't have the talent around him to assist in that. So I honestly think it was a combination of things. It's unfortunate. Again, love DJ as a person, as a player, and everything that he brings to the game. He's going to be a great teammate for the Giants. And I actually hope that he finds more success beyond the 1 year deal that he signed. But the Chargers had to go in another direction after 4 years of just not seeing it work.
Yeah, I agree, and I he's one of the few guys that when he leaves, I actually want to see him do well. Usually when they leave, they're dead to me. Even though the Chargers released him, I really want to see him do well because I just like the guy. I really do, and I'm wondering if maybe we did not use him. What's the right way of putting it? The best way we didn't utilize his talents in the best way. We kind of asked him to do things that maybe weren't in his wheelhouse, because it always seemed. I said this before, and I don't want it to seem like I'm saying he's not smart or he's not able to mentally play. It just seems like every time it wasn't. Not that he didn't get beat. Everybody gets beat. But it seems like he got beat because he was a half second late to whatever block he was supposed to be. He wasn't on the block from the beginning. He was just a half second late, not quite where he's supposed to be. And is that more on the Chargers or is that more on him? Did you see it that way too, or am I a little bit off base on that?
I mean, the reasoning behind it is, it's anybody's guess what it was. It could have been a combination of things. Again, DJ did what he needed to do to try to get faster. He even lost weight. Mm-hmm. He put in the work to do whatever it was that he needed to do to improve himself. Unfortunately, it wasn't there. And, it is what it is. I think DJ also kind of found himself, in a tough spot considering that the Chargers had already invested two big contracts to two of the other offensive linemen. Yeah. And actually, I take that back. 3 of them, if you include Orlando Franklin. If you have Dunn, Franklin, and Barksdale. So, for the mediocre play that was turned in, and with the contracts that you already had given out to 2 other guys, or 3 other guys just within a season of each other, there was no room for that type of money to go in and try to invest in that type of play performance that had been put out thus far. So, his rookie deal was up and it was expendable, and it was going to save the Chargers a lot of money, which in this case, considering where they were in the salary cap, they needed it. And I think that was also part of the reason that he was released.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a kind of unfortunate for him because I don't know. I just liked him and I wanted to see him do well. So in the first 3 picks, I want to see the Chargers do offensive line. That of course leaves one other pick left, and it is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. We're not going to get too much into defense, but I'd like to see safety mixed into the mix within the first 3 picks. Now, looking at the draft class safety wise, we're not going to get too deep into it, but just curious if the Chargers do not use a first round pick on a safety, and they wait till the 2nd or 3rd round. Jake, is it possible for them to still get somebody who's going to contribute this year, or are we looking more of a developmental guy, or is there nobody really worthy of a 2nd or 3rd round pick by the time you get there?
For the safety spot?
Yeah.
The safety spot is one of the deepest positions in this entire draft. It's crazy. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah that said it a couple weeks ago. He said that there are about 85 guys that could be in the top 50.
Wow. And
regardless of what the position is, it just shows you how deep this draft is, and that guys could fluctuate anywhere from, certain guys could, go from late round 1 to an early round 2, or even get quality down in round 3, depending on where you're selecting in that round. So I definitely think that there's talent all across the board, but especially safety is probably, one of the deepest spots in this draft. So I definitely think that there's still people to get, especially if the Chargers trade back and they pick. You're just making your chances even that much better. But I will say this, I've never been high on the Dwight Lowry pickup from last
year.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to ride that horse until it's dead.
You were right. You were right about that.
You really need a leader in center field, which gives me more reason to believe. And let's not forget, we're switching to a 4-3, and we have a new defensive coordinator in Gus Bradley. This is the first time, mind you, that the Chargers have gone through a head coach and a new defensive coordinator position since Norv Turner came on with Ted Cottrell back in 2007.
No,
so
it was T.E. Cottrell because there was no D.
That's good point. That's true. Until Ron Rivera took over, there was no. That's right. but yeah, this is the first time that we've had to go through this type of coaching shift. So it'll be interesting to see it, and especially just with switching the scheme on top of everything else. You have to think that Telesco and the scouts and everybody else, they're going to have to be taking all that into consideration. And it would shock me if they weren't really involving Bradley or Anthony Lynn in the draft process, considering what it is that they brought him in for, because they're going to change both the offense and the defense this year. They're going to have their own schemes of what it is that they want to do, and you're going to have to draft for that. Not necessarily from a need standpoint, but it could still be from a BPA aspect. But in terms of maybe where you're valuing these players, that's going to come into consideration as well. So I think that the coaching influence is going to be a big factor in this entire drafting process.
Yeah, that's a good point with these new coaches coming in, Anthony Lynn coming in. One thing the Chargers do they really, really need to be successful because they're kind of getting ignored up in LA, which, whatever. They've left San Diego, so kind of the spotlight's on them in that sense. So they really, really need to make sure this is a good draft. And that for Charger fans, whether or not you're still bitter with the ownership, which I am, I'll be honest with you. You still want the team to do well. I'm still a Charger fan. That's why we're doing this show here. I think they really, really need to draft well, and they drafted well last year too, and they just need to keep that going. Sticking on the offensive side of the ball, what's your thought about the Chargers drafting a wide receiver, and where would you like to see it fall? What, rounds 1 through 7? Now, anybody who's ever listened to me about around draft time knows that I think that drafting a wide receiver with your first-round draft pick is a waste. I think that the wide receivers bust out a lot because a lot of wide receivers are able to be very successful in college because they're super great athletes, and they're not necessarily. I don't want to say they're not smart, but they don't have to use mentally. They don't have to be mentally good. They just are physically better than everybody else. It's kind of like that best kid on your high school team. You know, he might just be physically better than everybody else. But I think that a lot of times these wide receivers, when they get to the NFL and they need to play more of the mental game, they're not able to do it. Now you got exceptions, of course, like Randy Moss, who just was physically better than everybody else. But I really, really believe that early round draft pick wide receivers bust too often to waste a pick, and we did that already with the perfectly named Buster Davis, of course. What are your thoughts on drafting wide receiver? I don't want to see a wide receiver drafted before the 3rd round. I'd like to see 4th or later, to be honest with you. First of all, do you think the Chargers need to draft a wide receiver, and what are your thoughts on them drafting one early?
Wide receiver for the Chargers in the early parts of the rounds is really a luxury pick. I mean, again, remember who you have currently on your roster in the wide receiving core. Obviously, Keenan Allen is the biggest question mark because we're just praying to God that he stays healthy coming off the injury he had last year.
Right.
You don't have Stevie Johnson anymore. He was, your primary slot receiver at that point in time. You've got Travis Benjamin, who in his first year, off of a free agent contract, underwhelmed. You had Tyrell Williams on his breakout year that he had for an undrafted free agent. I thought he did absolutely stellar. His numbers, I went and looked at it just for fun the other day, but his numbers were dangerously close to what Victor Cruz did in his rookie season.
Wow.
It was dangerously close. He had more. Victor Cruz had more yardage, a few more touchdowns, but it was in that type of a ballpark. So I was actually pretty impressed with it when I saw the final numbers. And you got Dontrell Inman, who, despite what a lot of people may feel about him, turned in a very serviceable season and shown, he could be a good value to this team.
Hey, let me tell you something. I beat on that guy all year long on our pregame shows. I talked about how unimpressed I was with him. And towards the end of the year, he really, really seemed to what I thought he lacked was consistency. Of course, he had that big San Francisco game a couple years ago, but the consistency where he would you'd see a good game from him and then he'd disappear. Towards the end of the year, I started to see more consistency out of him. He seemed to be more reliable on 3rd down, and I've come around on Dontrell Inman. I'm gonna be honest with you, Jake. I'm pretty happy moving forward with Dontrell Inman now. Do you see that too? Do you think? I know that you've kind of been a fan of his anyways, and you defended him a little bit last year from me, but did you see a difference from him towards the end of the year, which looks like maybe we're going to see a little bit more consistency out of him?
I sure hope so. I mean, I think the needle can only go up from here. And again, this is going to come down to, if Keenan Allen is healthy this year, then his playing time is going to ultimately be diminished. But I think if, you're in need of, a 3rd or a 4th receiver, I think he is that guy. I thought that plays that he did across the middle were exceptional. Yes. And then even with the long touchdown pass that he got from Rivers, I can't remember which game it was against that they ultimately ended up losing that game, I believe. But he's proven that if,
it's a pretty safe bet that they lost it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Because it was after the Houston game, so they definitely lost the game. I just can't remember who the team lost against. But no, I mean, he put up a great game during that one as well. So I mean, again, he's never going to be a number 2. That's just legitimate.
Right.
But I think as a depth receiver, if you need someone that can rotate in the slot, or if someone has an injury, I think that he's proven that he could be serviceable in that. He's never going to put up giant numbers that you'd want to see from a wide receiver, but he definitely had his best year when he was given an opportunity. 810 yards, 4 touchdowns. Those aren't numbers that leap off the screen to anybody, but given the Chargers situation of what it was last year at wide receiver, I thought that was exceptional for him, and considering what he's gone through. Now, getting back to your question, in retrospect, should the Chargers be drafting a wide receiver? I don't see them, unless you're trading down and you acquire an extra pick in, say, rounds 2 or 3, you don't draft at round 1. That's clear cut from the get-go. But you're going down there in the second round, and, I think that ultimately a guy who there's a variety of these type of wide receivers, but this is what can be a beginning to filling the Woodhead type of a role off a third down, is you really need a legitimate slot, quick type of wide receiver. So if you fall down in the second round and you happen to find, if there's a luxury like a Zay Jones that still happens to be there in the second round, I don't believe that he will, or a Curtis Samuel out of Ohio State, a Cooper Kupp out of Eastern Washington, small school guy, but has a lot of intangibles that's going to be able to translate well to the NFL. My personal favorite for one of my biggest sleepers in this draft, and I predict him going anywhere between rounds 3 and 4, but Tywan Taylor out of Western Kentucky. Again, 5'11", he's not the biggest guy out there, but this is a guy who can thrive in that slot type of role. But he can work the inside and outside if need be. It's his skill set reminds me a lot of a Stevie Johnson, not his ultimate output, because I definitely think he could bring more than that. But his skill set is so versatile that you can really use him all over the field. And the numbers that he put up at Western Kentucky, and numbers that are even better than some of the top wide receivers in this draft, I believe he had more games with 40-yard pass. Passing TDs or passing catches than any other wide receiver in this entire draft. So he can be a deep threat if you need him to be that. So there is wide receiver is another position, probably next to offensive or not offensive, but tight end and running back. That's really, really deep on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't see the Chargers pulling the trigger on a wide receiver at 7. If you get an extra second-round pick, if you happen to trade down, I could see it as a possibility there, considering who would still be on the board. But I think if the Chargers stay pat, I think that they wouldn't consider drafting a wide receiver until at least the third round.
Yeah, the problem is you fall into the trap of assuming that everybody's going to be healthy. And us as Charger fans, we should never fall into that trap anymore, because you look at the wide receivers and, assuming health, Keenan Allen, we only got him for 40% of a game last year, and he looked like he was probably one of the best receivers in the league, honestly. He looked so good before his knee, his knee succumbed to the San Diego water. Number 2 wide receiver, Tyrell Williams. I'm very, very satisfied with him coming in as the number 2 this year. Travis Benjamin, who had such a disappointing year last year, predicted by Mike Maciejewski, by the way. I actually see him having a huge, I'm a fan, I understand that, a huge turnaround this year, and I think we're going to see big stuff out of Travis Benjamin. With Dontrell Inman, I'm super comfortable with him. We just talked about him being a number 4 wide receiver. Everything else is up. The only thing really open is a number 5 spot. And I, with that being said, that these guys aren't all going to be healthy. These guys aren't all going to be back. Aren't all going to be able to play. So, to me, third round seems a little bit early to use on a wide receiver. But at the same time, positions that we think we have depth at towards the end of last year, we did not have any depth left anymore. So to me, third round's a little early, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised, especially if somebody with all the talent out there in this draft, to see if they have somebody who's available who looks like they've fallen, they might jump. You were saying even second round. Do you think that that's an actual possibility, second round, or you just said that you wouldn't be surprised if it happened?
Both. I think it's a realistic possibility, and I wouldn't least. It's second round. It's harder to predict because you would just have no idea how the draft is ultimately going to fall. But considering who should still be on the board by the time that the Chargers come back around at 7, depending on who hasn't taken a wide receiver that's ahead of you by that point in time, there's some really good talent that you can find. Possibly to replace anybody when an injury comes up, or You still have to kind of think, do a little forward thinking in that circumstance. And like you said, you can't go into a year with a Chargers season thinking that everybody's going to be healthy. So you have to prepare for it. Again, we didn't think that we were going to be taking, inside linebackers last year, and we did it anyway, and it ended up paying off huge dividends for us, which was great.
Yeah.
Tom Telesco may do one of those type of moves when it comes up to, contracts, or possibly if it relates to injuries that people just aren't able to hang anymore, and you want to keep stacking that position. So with the wide receivers that are in this class, it would be a luxury pick. But I'll tell you what, if the Chargers are able to get one of these guys that are big time players, it's going to definitely add some fuel to the fire for their offense that they're going to be able to unload very, very quickly in the season.
Yeah, and the last position on the offensive side of the ball that I wanted to talk about was tight end. Hunter Henry, he had a pretty solid or actually a pretty good year last year. He did have some injury issues. Surprise, surprise. He's ready, I think, to step into that number one tight end role. Antonio Gates, I'm hoping he's ready to take the number 2 tight end role, and I actually think he is. I think that he's ready to be more of a contributor, more of a maybe a little bit less wear and tear on the body, move into that number 2 role. I'll ask if you agree with that, and then also, are the Chargers looking to draft a tight end? We know we're going to get Jeff Cumberland back next year. We had Sean McGrath play a little bit last year. Are they looking to maybe draft another tight end?
I don't know, and you throw Asante Cleveland into that mix as well. I mean, Again, nothing saying from him, but that's already 5 tight ends that are on this roster if you take everybody.
Yeah.
So
and Jake
I don't
McGee
see
too, which
right. Yeah, and so I don't see tight end as a draft priority at all. But again, could you be looking to replace Antonio Gates when he's possibly done after this next season? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, if you were to tell me that a Jake Butt from Michigan, poor guy who legitimately was a first round, not for his name, got hurt, was a legitimate first round talent, probably would have gone above OJ Howard in the draft. OJ Howard's, the number 1 tight end that's on everybody's board right now. But there was talk of Jake Butt being the best tight end in this draft, and because of his injury, it definitely shut him down a couple rounds. So if you were to tell me that he's still sitting there, strangely enough, in the 4th or the 5th round, I wouldn't care about who I've got on my roster at that point. I would think that pick would definitely be worth it. Think about what you'd have in the future with a Jake Butt and a Hunter Henry as your 2 bookend tight ends.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And as a position, I'm always trying to think of I want them to draft guys that are going to contribute right now, but at the same time, this league is kind of moved to a 2 tight end league. You almost need 2 good tight ends offensively to get those mismatches, and I wouldn't be opposed to the Chargers drafting a good tight. If somebody fell, like I said, I don't want to see them, reach with their number 1 or their number 2 pick, their first or second round pick to a tight end. But if somebody falls and there's somebody that comes up like that, you go, gosh, this guy should have been drafted a long time ago. I can't believe he's still available. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I really wouldn't on the offensive side of the ball. I think you can't have you can't have too many weapons, and I think if they can get another weapon at tight end, I'd be all for that.
I'll say this much: there's a luxury on both circumstances when it comes to the Chargers and tight ends. Number 1, they don't need a tight end. Flat out, plain and simple, they don't need a tight end. But there's no telling how this roster is going to look the way it is now, come the beginning of September. It's another luxury for the fact that this tight end class is ridiculously deep. I have not seen a tight end draft class that is this deep within probably the last 10, 12 years. So where you're able to get talent that is still there is going to be something that the Chargers could pick up in the late rounds if they so choose to pull the trigger on a tight end. So, you're not going to be using a high draft pick on a tight end if that is your strategy. Not at all. So if you're investing in that position, I wouldn't expect it would be till around 5 to 7.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that you're looking, if you're going to be drafting a tight end, I think it's going to be a later pick, and we only talked offense here. Of course, we're going to be sprinkling and where we think these defensive guys. We're going to be talking about that next week, because I actually have a lot more interest on what the Chargers are going to do defensively in the draft. I'm really curious with, like you said, with them switching over from a 3-4 to a 4-3. It's there's some real unique questions we have on that defensive line and at the linebacker position, with guys that they've brought back and things that they've done. Before I let you go, I know we ended up running over. Mike actually has had something come up, and so he's running late. We're going to be, but we did run late a little bit, but we will be talking about Padres in just a minute. You don't see any surprises like with punter or kicker being drafted here. I know that that Drew Kaiser had a really rough start to the year. He actually came around towards the end. He started playing a little bit better. He started actually punting the ball more than 30 yards, which was nice to see. I think that we're going to be okay with him. Josh Lambo, somebody who when they kept Lambo, I was bummed. But then I came around to liking him on his kickoffs, and then towards the end of the year, I started to sour a little bit on Lambo. I'm not an insider. I'm not in the training room or the meeting rooms with him. I'm not at the practices. It almost just seemed like he didn't take it as seriously. Just from a total outsider with no specific knowledge on the situation, it just seemed like he didn't take his job as seriously, and he started to maybe miss some kicks that he should make. What are your thoughts on the kicking and the punting situation here? And do you see any surprises at all in the draft? Maybe somebody getting drafted?
None. I don't see them invest either of those positions at all, honestly. And you know what? Unfortunately for Lambo, until he is the winner of a playoff game for the Chargers, that whole clip of him having the conversation and laughing, while walking off the field is going to haunt him for.
Yes.
And that's really the reason that everybody hates him, regardless if he went out there and made every kick that he was given to make. People are still going to ridicule for that. But be that as it may, there is not going to be any investment in this draft in specialists at all.
Well, yeah, that's good, because we actually we need more guys that are going to be able to contribute. And I did sour a little bit on him, but I'm willing to move forward with Drew. With Josh Lambo. I can move forward with him. I'd rather not waste a draft pick. It's going to wrap things up for us on the offensive side of the ball, Jake. Thanks. Thanks for hanging in there for so long when we took a little bit of time off. I know that for me, draft season starts at the beginning of April, and for you, draft season started about week 4 or 5 this year. So it's been a long time coming, and you're finally getting an opportunity to talk some draft. So we appreciate you hanging in there. You guys can find articles from Jake, of course, at boltsfromtheblue.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Jake T. Hefner. Anything else coming up, Jake, besides the big gala at your house at the end of the month?
Yeah, later, probably within the next 2 days or so. I'm not sure if you had caught the other 2 pieces that I had put up last week, but this week I'm basically I'm picking to do an offensive and defensive player, one of each week leading up to the draft. So I did offense and defense last week on Connor Harris and Nate Peterman. And this week I don't know who my defensive player is going to be yet, but within the next day or so, finishing up a piece on Western Kentucky's Tywan Taylor, wide receiver. So I'm excited to get that out.
Nice. I look forward to that. You guys can find them once again on boltsfromtheblue.com. I'm sure that when you write those articles, you'll tweet them out from your Twitter handle, also at Jake T. Hefner.
Hey, real quick before, because I know you're about to transition into Padres.
Yes.
It's funny. I'm not sure if you caught or you listened to the Rich Eisen show at all, but have you heard about this new series that's starting on IFC called Brockmire?
No. Is that
So
Brockmire's not the guy from The Simpsons, is he?
no. Well, it's funny that you say The Simpsons because it's starring Hank Azaria, who does a
really?
voice for them. Yeah, but basically the whole premise is that it's a fictional character of his that was a big time sports announcer for baseball.
Yes, I saw that.
So he was actually brought in on the Rich Eisen show, but he was actually in character.
Oh,
so Azaria was in character.
Was it good?
It was hilarious. Rich Eisen was asking him, what rule changes would you like to see come back into the game of baseball? And so he said pranks. He's like, I would love to see pranks come back. There should be one for each dugout per game, so each gets a chance to do one. And he said the term hot foot, which I was unfamiliar with.
I know what that is. It's when you
he said the hot foot should come back. And then this is one that will directly relate to you guys. I'm not sure if you ever had this, but he said it's called the San Diego Surprise. And Rich is like, what's the San Diego Surprise? And he said, it is when the wife of your unborn child comes to you and says that your firstborn is going to be fathered by a San Diego Padre. So I thought that was great. So apparently that show is on IFC. I think it starts tonight. So I thought that was an interesting thing to come back into the game.
Yeah, I saw the previews for that, and I was kind of on the fence or not. But the more I think about it, I think I want to give it a shot because I did see a few highlights from it. It does look pretty funny. So I look forward to that. What was it called again?
It's called Brockmire.
Brockmire.
IFC. Yeah, it looks great. I'm actually going to tune into it tonight.
Yeah, that's a good call. I'll have to set my DVR. Well, Jake, I appreciate you joining. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to bring in. We're going to have Mike Maciejewski calling in. We're going to be bringing him in, but once again, it's been a long time since we were able to talk some Chargers draft. I know you've been itching. I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you about the defensive side draft, general draft talk on the defensive side of the ball next Wednesday, man. Oh, you still there? That might be it. All right, Jake, we appreciate that. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back on the other side. We're going to be talking about Padre baseball. We're going to have Mike Maciejewski coming in. We'll be right back.
1, 2, 3, they're gonna run back to me. They always wanna come, but they never wanna leave. Exes and the oh-ohs, they haunt me. Like oh-ohs, they want me to make them oh-oh, they want.
Calling all podcasters. Have you ever wanted your voice to be heard? Do you need help expanding your audience? Are you curious just how far your show could reach? Well, look no further. We are New Media Radio Network, the premier podcast streaming network. Let us take your show to the next level. For more information, check out our website, www.newmediaradio.net.
All right, we are back. We are getting ready for Mike Maciejewski to be calling in. We're going to be talking about Padres. The Padres season started. It's kind of interesting. I'm hoping he calls in soon because we had a little bit of a conversation off the show about what to expect this year. It's been interesting, an interesting off season. You know, the Padres took a little bit of a different approach this year. They've dumped a lot of their a lot of the players that they had traded for. They traded away a lot of the young talent that they had in the minors to try and win now. They brought a lot of guys over here. It ended up not working out. They fired the coach. They brought in a new coach, a new younger coach. They brought in a new younger team. They traded all of those guys back away again to bring in some young talent. And now they have a team full of youngsters. And there's a lot of people out there that are really, really, really excited for this season. And I'm just kind of curious. Let me see if I can bring Mikey in here. I'm just kind of curious to see what Mikey thinks about what the Chargers are going to do. Let's talk about the starting rotation before Mikey comes in. We're going to talk about. Let's see here, Mikey, you there? Hello?
I'm here, sir.
Oh, right. We got. I was just kind of leading in. The Padres kind of took a little bit of a different approach than they had a couple years ago. They got rid of all of the young guys and they brought in some older stars, we'll call them, to try and win now. It didn't work out. They kind of gave all those guys away to try to bring some young guys in. Now they have a team full of some young guys, and there's a lot of optimism out there that the Padres are going to be able to do something this year. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that the Padres have a chance to compete this year, or do you think that people who think that there's an actual playoff shot here are delusional?
Who told you those lies, Jason?
There's a lot of optimism out there. I see a lot of it out there on Twitter and people thinking that this team's going to do really well.
Yeah, what can I say? They're picked to finish last, correct?
Yes.
Right. They're picked to finish last in the home majors. There's a lot to be excited about, but I think they're just not going to be there this year. They're going to struggle. I think they might beat that win prediction. I forgot what it was. I think it was 60.
10?
Yeah, I think it was like 62 or something. I think they're going to get more than that. But I think it's going to be some tough times. I mean, it's not even the bats, because really the bats is where it's the pitching. The pitching is terrible. I don't know what they got. Well, I know they got these bums off, but geez,
well. Let's go through the starting rotation here real quick. I got it here right in front of me because I have to have it on paper here.
Right.
Chacin, we saw opening day starter, which to have him named opening day starter was kind of funny. Things went a little bit south for him pretty quick.
Yeah.
Where I understand it's only one game. He's not going to give up 12 runs a game every time he pitches. Let's hope that he doesn't. Yeah. As your number one starter, though, let's be honest, he's a place filler. There's no way that they see a future with this guy in the rotation. He's just because we needed 5 guys.
Exactly.
And he was one of the guys. Next guy is also a place filler, and he's actually one of my favorite Padres. I've always been a huge fan of Clayton Richards. Loved it, and I'm not just talking about just because he pitched really good yesterday. I've always liked him. When they ended up releasing him, I was bummed. He bounced around a little bit, did okay for the Cubs, came back, finished pretty strong for us. He pitched really, really good yesterday. I don't see him pitching like that. I think his ERA is going to probably be about 4.5 this year. Right now, of course, it's 0. Another place filler, though, a decent place filler, though, but he's a place filler, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's not just because yesterday. I think he's a veteran presence who's not Jared Weaver,
right? And then we got Trevor Cahill, who came over from the Cubs. You don't see him as the future either. I mean, do you? You don't. He's another place filler, right?
Another place filler. I mean, he's just had a career where he's just, a bottom of the rotation kind of guy.
Yeah,
we got to pull those guys.
Yeah, we got a rotation full of 5th starters is what we have right now.
Yes.
Jared Weaver, he of the 84-mile-an-hour fastball. Another guy that it's funny that he's come full circle because we should have drafted him, and instead we drafted Matt Bush because they didn't want to pay him.
Who's doing better right now than Jared Weaver?
Isn't that funny? Because he can still throw over 90 miles an hour. Jared. I'm really interested. What's your you know how I like to make predictions. What's your prediction from Weaver this year? What do you think we're going to get out of him?
Not much, honestly. He's actually the guy I hate the least. I mean, he's the guy I hate the most. Sorry, I like him the least. It's that fastball, man. He just doesn't have it. He was a strikeout artist back when he was started. He was a big time strikeout guy, and when he's throwing 84 miles an hour fastballs, I mean, might as well be throwing, lobbing them up to the guys. I don't have big hopes for Weaver. Like, I'm not. Yeah, again, he's one I like the least. And I mean, again, he's a fifth starter at this point in his career, if that.
Yeah,
honestly, if that. I mean, he let's see. He pitched in 31 games last year, finished with a 5.06 ERA.
Yeah, he got rocked a little bit.
He did get rocked. He did get rocked, and I mean, he's to me, he's the definition of a complete place filler. Like, just he's there. I mean, at least Richard and even Chacin, you're hopeful that they can do something, maybe pull a couple wins. But I mean, we've talked about how
Cahill could even develop into something, over the next couple years.
For sure. And we've always talked. I've always thought pitchers do well here because they're pitching in Petco.
Yeah. That was my next. That was my next question. Was, do you think that he decided to come here because he thought it might? Because what happens is these guys, and I wish I thought we were going to go this direction, because I would have actually done a little bit of research and come up with a list of pitchers who kind of were on the downside of their career, came here, pitched pretty good, and then got big giant contracts to go somewhere else. And it happens a lot. Do you think that is maybe something that he's looking to do, maybe to kind of relaunch his career, to trick other teams into thinking he can actually pitch still?
Maybe. It's very, very possible, because he needs it. Everybody knows the fastball. Everybody knows what's going on with this fastball. It's very obvious. But I mean, you just gotta. Petco has been helpful. I don't know how much it was Petco, how much it was Bud Black, to be honest with you, because he was a pitching guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was guys that came here and who did really well here, and I said, then they went elsewhere and they're not doing that great. I mean, look at Ian Kennedy. He's not doing as great as he was doing here, and he had an up and down career in Arizona. So I definitely don't. I think that might be an option, but the guy I really like is Perdomo. I like Perdomo, actually.
Yeah.
He's a guy I think you might have something in here with this guy, and definitely the guy that I would, hope that he could develop, and I'm glad he got the chance to be out there because he needs it.
Yeah, he's the only guy in this rotation that I actually look at as a future. I look at this team and I you got to look optimistically because it's your team and you like, there are hometown guys. So you look at this team optimistically and you look at all the guys that are playing, and a lot of them are all, Hunter Renfroe, Manny Margot, and Travis Jankowski, all really young guys that we're all hoping will develop into stars. You got Schimpf, you got Solarte is probably you have to throw a couple, we'll call them veterans, guys have been in the league a little while. You got Solarte and Myers, which are those guys. Maybe Ibarra at short, but Schimpf and Hedges, these are all young guys that we're hoping to develop into stars. And Perdomo is the only guy in our starting rotation that I see moving forward with that group of stars. The rest of these guys are all just kind of, you got to have 5 pitchers, so we'll have Perdomo. And I'm surprised that, with the way Perdomo was pitching at the end of last year compared to how he started last year, which was horrible, but the way he was pitching at the end of last year, I was thinking that might be our opening day starter next year, and they made him the 5th starter. Any idea why? Do you just think that they didn't quite want to thrust him into they maybe want to give him another year to develop, and they didn't want to thrust him into that number 1 starter position? Because he could have probably not given up 12 runs on.
Yeah, that, and they also didn't want Clayton Kershaw to crush his spirit for the season.
That was what I said when somebody said they got Chacin starting opening day. I said, I think they've just chalked up Kershaw to a loss. Let's just float somebody else out there, and we'll start game 2.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really interesting, Jason, because, I mean, to me, he's the most interesting prospect on that staff. I think he's, the guy I would like to see out there the most. But, again, I think you're right. I think you can't throw him out there right away and hope that he – delivers something, because he's not going to. He's really not. This team, again, first of all, putting a starter on a guy who's pitched essentially one season of majors, that's just really unfair to the kid. And so, I say you got to go ahead and just let him, earn his starts, give him some exposure, get him some experience, and because eventually he's going to be the guy you're going to be depending on. Because unless the Padres go out and bolster the rotation later on in the future, there's not a lot of pitching talent that's close to coming up, in my opinion. Most of that talent is coming from elsewhere.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about that. Now, the bullpen, we have a pretty strong bullpen. A lot of guys coming back. They're going to be working hard this year because of the starting rotation. The outfield that I mentioned, Margot, Renfroe, and Jankowski. Are you comfortable moving forward? Do you think that these are the guys that we could be, as the future of the Padres, or do you think that we need to, maybe replace one of them, or are you happy with all three of them?
Yeah, I actually am. I think I actually like Manny Margot the most. I think he's just, you're going to need a hitter. Again, looking at who's out there, I guess you could put, I don't know, who else would you look at, Jason?
You got
minors.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of anybody that
Blash.
Yeah, that's the problem. Blash is I know that he had a pretty decent spring training. He's like the human windmill to me, and right. I don't know. That he's kind of a bit of a wild card. I'm not sold on him. I know everybody was so high on him last year. I'm not sold on him, but I'm not writing him off either. He could be one of those guys that hits 240 and gives you 35 or 40 bombs, which I'm fine with. If you're going to get hit only 230 or 240, then you better give me 40 bombs. And he could be that guy. The problem is, SoCal Travis trying to call in, and it looks like it's going to let me add him. So let's see what we can do here. Trav, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, brother.
Mike, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, good. So we got Maciejewski and we got SoCal Trav. Now, we are talking Padres right now. I can move back to Chargers in a little bit. But I know you're an Angels fan, but let's ask you. We talked about this before. What are your thoughts on Jared Weaver coming down south and pitching for the Padres?
I think it's good. I mean, I think he's still got a little juice in the tank, and I've always felt that the Angels pitching coaches have been nothing but crap over the past 5 to 6 years. I think that also has a lot to do with how he's been. But I think it's good for him. I think it's really good to have another dirtbag on that team. And I think he'll be good for you guys. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. I don't think he's obviously he doesn't have the velocity he used to, where he was hucking balls at 95 plus. His fastball is right around the high 80s, 87 to 89 miles an hour, but he does have a lot of control of the ball and he really knows how to change the speed really well. So I think he's a good 4th or 5th starter, and I think he'll surprise a lot of people for you guys. I think he's going to be a really good fit for you guys.
Oh, Trav, we were talking about this earlier. Do you think that maybe he eyed coming down to Petco, which is one of the best pitchers parks, in order to maybe bolster his stock a little bit for his next contract?
I don't know if it's to bolster it. I think obviously this is a show me what you can do contract. I think he's getting $3 million is what he signed for. Is that what it was?
I don't know what it was. It wasn't huge, but I think it was one of those. He saw what was out there offered. I actually agree with Mikey. I think that he saw this as an opportunity to maybe get another team to buy into what he's doing. He can have a solid year and then maybe get a multi-year with somebody else. Maybe like the Yankees or the Dodgers, a team like that, looking for a 4th or 5th starter.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go East Coast, and I don't know how much time he's got left in the big leagues, but he is getting up there in age too. So. As for a guy, but he could be very right. He could be just taking it as an easy thing because great ballparks to pitch in, and if he can keep his ERA sub 3, I think he's got a good shot to get a big deal following the end of the season.
I'd be shocked if he kept his ERA sub. I'd be shocked if he kept it sub 4. To be honest with you.
I think he'll be anywhere between about 2.85 to 3.65.
Wow!
And as long as his whip is, I think if his whip's around maybe 1 point something, rather, I think he'll be all right.
Wow, the good news on that is this is a guy that pitched for the Angels last year, so you're not hating on him, which is good, because I don't have as optimistic of a view of him as you. Do you think you see any chance of him having an ERA below 4, Mikey?
I mean, it was 5.05 last year. Put the Petco in, the Petco, what do you call it? The Petco effect into that. And maybe you got like low 4s, hopefully. I don't know about sub 4, but I mean, Trav's seen no more. Trav, I remember Trav would yell at the Angels all the time. So I know I trust Trav and his Angel, and his Angel talk. And if he's not hating on a guy, then he must have really done something well for Trav to not be mad at him, because I remember Trav would yell at everybody on the Angels last year.
Trav, you want to talk Chargers, I assume?
Hey, whatever you guys are talking, I'm game for it, man.
Okay.
I'm game with Trav if he wants to talk Chargers.
Oh, okay, good. I want to do one more Padre, and then we can flip back to Chargers. Austin Hedges, time for him to, he's been a prospect for quite a while. We know that he's defensively good. We know he can throw out runners. If Austin Hedges hits around 230 this year, Mike, is that a successful season at the plate for him?
No. He did too much last year in the minor leagues for 230 to be a success. He has to hit about 250, 260 to at least warrant success, in my opinion. Even more, because he had a really good year last year. I mean, he did really well in the minors. I have to look at his numbers again, but it was much improved.
Yeah.
And so for me, 230 is just like what I would have been expected before he did well in the minors. Now at this point, I really would like to see a bit more from him. So I don't know. Let me actually look at how he did last year in the minors. So.
I agree with you on that, and I was thinking more 260. I need to see him hit 260 and play the defense that we all know he can for this to be a successful year. If he hits anything below that, then I'm not. That to me, it's a bad year. He needs to. I know that this will be his first time in the big leagues as a full-time catcher. I don't care. This guy has had plenty of seasoning. He's not being thrust into the into the major league team. This guy, he's had plenty of time to develop. It's time for him to show us something. He has the team. They traded everybody else away.
Yeah.
The only other guy that could take his job, they got pitching now. So. So I say 260 or it's an unsuccessful year. What do you think, Travis? Do you think that that's a little unfair to him?
260?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I think 260 is I think that's a fair goal for him as a catcher. Catchers they do have more responsibilities. I don't expect a 300 season out of him. But 230 is not going to cut it for me for him. We've had a lot of patience with him. I think it's time for him.
Yeah. I'm going to call. I'm going to say he's going to go 273.
Boy, wouldn't that be awesome? Boy, I love the optimism Travis has shown for the Padres.
And also, you also got another Angel on that team this year, Eric Ibar.
Yeah, he started pretty strong too. He's hitting pretty well for us.
He has got some wheels, man. That guy can steal bags, and Mike Scioscia didn't utilize him in his last couple of years as an Angel because Mike Scioscia's a pussy. He doesn't like to steal bags. So I think you're going to be when he starts and he's on the field. I think you're going to see a lot of bags stolen by him. I think they're going to allow him to run.
Obviously, that was a shocker of him getting the position because I don't think anyone expected him to win that straight out.
Yeah,
they were hoping he'd.
Well, when I saw the Padres sign him, I knew damn well he was going to start. I just knew damn well he was going to be a starter because he's really good at what he does.
Nice. Well, he's so far. I know it's only been a couple games, but so far I've been happy with what we've gotten out of him. And then of course we mentioned him before, Solarte and Myers. Myers, I'm expecting to have he's a team leader now. He had a solid season last year. He did kind of tail off towards the end of the year, but I'm expecting a big year out of him and Solarte too. I'm expecting actually both of these guys to contribute mightily this year because I have a feeling that Renfroe, Margot, Schimpf, and especially Hedges are going to have some real times where they struggle this year. We're going to need consistent good play from Solarte and Myers. Do you think we can get that, Mike?
Oh, yeah. Well, especially from Solarte. I've always been worried on Myers. I don't think he's the guy you build around.
Yeah.
But, I'm all in on this guy, man, honestly. I love Myers. But Solarte is like a consistent guy. That's what I like about Solarte. I'm a big average guy, and he bats for about 270, 280. So if he can keep doing that and coming up clutch when he does, maybe great. I love the guy. Myers, Myers, you want him to be special. You want Myers to be that 25 guy every year.
Yeah.
And you want him to bring the average up. So, I think they're going to have to carry the team to whatever record they carry them. Because I agree with you. There's going to be some growing pains with this team because they're young.
Yeah, I think we need to see 25-25 from Myers, and we need a 290 batting average. I think we need that batting average to be hovering right around 300 all year long. I think that's why they signed him to this contract. He's, like I said, he's a team leader. That's what we're going to need out of him, and I think we can. I actually like Myers, and I think we can get that out of him. Did you guys want to go back? And talk a little bit of Chargers before we go?
Sure.
Chargers.
Whatever you guys want to do, I'm game.
Chargers draft. There's 7 rounds, and the Chargers have 1 pick in each round. Jake and I spent the first half of the show spending time on the offense. Next week we're going to be talking about the defense. Let's get your guys' opinion. I was so happy you weren't on earlier, Mike, when I said this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it now. I've come around to your line of thinking. The Chargers need to invest in the line, offensive line and defensive line. That's what's going to win games for this team is getting solid play from both of your lines. Your offensive line and your defensive line can shore up holes in other positions if those positions are strong. In the first 3 rounds, and unfortunately, there's not a big group of stud offensive linemen. There's probably not an offensive lineman that's worthy of a top 10 pick this year. But in the first 3 picks, I want to see the Chargers draft 2 offensive linemen. That's where I want to see them go. Travis, what are your thoughts on the draft early? What do you want to see the Chargers drafting early?
Well, you guys are not going to like what I have to say about the 7th pick overall, but hear me out. Just by listening to a certain player on the Chargers team now, as you can see, I'm not referring them. I'm only referring them as the Chargers.
Right.
That's all I'm going to call them. There's a certain player on the Chargers that is not happy about moving to Los Angeles. There's a certain Charger that seems to be a little disappointed about what has transpired over the past couple of months since the move was announced. There's a certain Charger, I think, that is going to retire after 1 year in L.A. And I'm calling it now. He will retire. He will play 1 season in Los Angeles, or he will demand a trade, and that is Phillip Rivers.
I think you're wrong, by the way, but I'm hearing you out.
I don't, and I think they're going to go and they're going to take number 7. You can mark it in the books. I don't know what you guys talked about earlier. Jake said they were going to take it 7, but I see with the 7th pick in the draft, the Chargers are going to take Deshaun Watson out of Clemson, and he is going to become the new quarterback for the Chargers. He won't start this season, but I have a feeling they're going to start using him a little bit more often, and he's going to do the same thing that happened in Dallas. You watch. I'm calling it now.
All right, Jake didn't really make his prediction yet because we're waiting because we're going to be doing a live draft show from Jake's house on that Thursday. We're driving up there and setting up the show in his living room, and we'll be doing the draft show, and we'll be talking then. We'll be getting actual specific draft predictions that day. That's a pretty bold choice. So in other words, they're basically flushing their number 7 pick down the toilet for this year. I
think that's going to happen just because I don't think, first of all, like I said, Rivers is not happy about it. He's not going to move to L.A., and I think by the time he figures it all out, he's going to realize that this team is not going to win in L.A. They're not going to get the support in L.A., and he's going to walk into that office, he's going to tell Tom and Dino, trade my ass, I'm done. Either you trade me or I retire. You watch.
Here's Here's a couple reasons why I think you're wrong. I think that the Chargers have not been embraced in LA like they thought they would be, and the last thing they want to do is spend a first-round draft pick on somebody who's not going to play, because they need to get guys out there to play. They need to win now, which, as us fans, is an advantage, because it took them a long time they did sell out the season tickets for that 30,000-seat stadium, but it took
only because they got a free jersey.
And it took over a week to do that, whereas the Rams sold out the 70,000 or 80,000 seats within hours. So it showed them what little support there is. However, what I'm telling Charger fans right now is when they do move to the bigger stadium with the bigger capacity, if you want to purchase Charger tickets, make sure that you have the Groupon app on your phone, because that's the way you're going to get them, because they're going to be giving them away.
Yep.
And the only way for them to avoid that is to start winning right now. This draft is very important to them. They need to win now, because they need to convince LA that they're a serious team and they're winners, and everybody will support a winner. As little as people care about them, the Clippers went through this for a long time. Nobody gave a shit about the Clippers. If the Clippers were winning championships, there would have been a whole lot more buzz about the Clippers up in LA. The Chargers need to win now. They are not going to use their very first-round draft choice after they move up there on a player that's not going to play. Mikey, what's your thoughts on that?
On just the draft or on what Trav said?
On the first-round draft pick, if you think that they're gonna draft Watson.
No, I like Watson a lot. I agree. I love Watson. I think I'm looking at Pat Mahomes as a pick. One thing I did hear from, I forgot who, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, that this draft is really deep with quarterbacks that you want to wait a year or two on.
Yeah, that's what Jake was saying.
And so that's a really, it's a really good point. And a guy like Mahomes, who's been looked at by a lot of teams, that might be some of the Chargers that looked at, and I know they've brought him in. So I could see them taking a quarterback in the next, couple of years. But I love Deshaun Watson. I can support him a lot as times progressed. But I think, everywhere I'm looking, they're looking at defense for that first pick. So I'm going to go with the consensus.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to go defense. I think they're going to go safety with the first pick. But second and third round, I want to see offensive linemen. And we actually went through the offensive line. And believe it or not, first of all, we always fall into the trap of assuming everybody's going to stay healthy. But which we know. Well, they got different water up there. So we talked about the fact that if you look at the offensive line right now, if everything works out the way that we would like it to, there's a very good chance that Max Turek starts at center this year. Matt Slauson moves over to guard. Orlando Franklin at guard. We actually have, and then you're looking at Russell Okung playing one tackle, and then we're hoping Barksdale, plays decently at the other one. They could technically go into this season with the offensive line that they have right now. But we also know that, first of all, one of those guys is going to not play as good as we think that they should. One of those guys is probably going to be hurt. And that's why I say we need to be using our draft picks online and defensive line as well. And I think that our defensive line is very solid right now, especially moving to the 4-3. But that's what's going to win the games, I think, is drafting with your line. Offensive line can make up for discrepancies and everywhere else, and the same thing with the defensive line. You could have really shitty cornerbacks, but if you can get yourself a good push up front, then the defensive line can make a difference in that. I don't want to see him draft a wide receiver. I don't want to see him draft a running back. I don't want to see him draft a quarterback. I want to see him draft those guys that nobody's heard of that are just going to come in and contribute every day.
Well, Max Turek also played guard at USC, so don't be surprised that they might place him at guard and leave Slauson at center.
Good call. That's a possibility that we didn't discuss. That's a good call. What are your thoughts on just drafting line? Loading up this draft with the line. You like that, Mikey?
They got. It'd be great if we.
Oh, go ahead, Trav. Go ahead, Trav.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I love it. You guys know I love the line. I agree. It's what can hide your deficiencies, and which line are you gonna get? I mean, what are you gonna get from Max Turk? What are you gonna get from Orlando Franklin?
Right.
Barksdale. What are you gonna get? Again, assuming that they're gonna play well, was what you got last year. What you're really gonna get from them? Who knows? So I mean, but you should build some depth on both sides of the line, again, because you don't need a receiver. Really, you don't need, in my opinion, if you have enough time for your quarterback, those guys will get open. So I agree with you, Jason.
Yeah, we don't need wide receivers. We don't need tight ends this year. You always can be drafting for the future, but really, everywhere else besides safety, we're actually pretty solid. Believe it or not, when you think about as bad as we played last year, the players that are coming back from injury, we actually have a pretty solid team. So I hope you're wrong, Trav, but it would be, how interesting would that be if they drafted Watson with the number 7 pick? Now,
nothing surprises me with this management team.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I think you're wrong on that, but what do I know? I'm wrong on just about everything. What are your thoughts about them? We say this every year. We always want them to do it, and they never do it. I'd love to see them trade down, of course. Like I said, I want to see them load up with offensive linemen, and I think if you draft an offensive lineman at the number 7 spot, you're reaching. I'd love to see them trade down, get a few extra draft choices. Then I would be a little bit more on board with them maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round drafting a quarterback if they were to accumulate an extra draft pick or 2 in those rounds. But I'd like to see them move down and maybe load up on offensive line later. Do you want to see them trade down, or would you rather see them trade up and for sure get Watson?
I would not want them to trade up because that would just be stupid, because we haven't had a pick in every round in how long now?
Yeah.
So I'd say
never
trade down. I'd say trade down, allow them to gain maybe another 1st round pick or something, or another additional 2nd round pick to some team that desperately needs something more than anything at all. There's plenty of teams out there that desperately need quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of teams that need other pieces of the puzzle. So I'd say, if they got an offer to move down from the 7th to maybe down, maybe in the teens or the early 20s, get that pick and maybe grab an additional 2nd round pick from that.
Yeah.
I'd go, why not?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Maybe move down to the late teens and grab themselves an extra 2nd round pick. Mikey, we talk about it every year. Do you would you like to see them trade down, or we know it's not going to happen because it never happens, but is that something you'd like to see, or do you want to just see them stay where they're at?
I mean, obviously, ideally for them, they should trade down and accumulate more, more depth. I don't know why, they don't. It's really, I mean, you see some of these trades in the NFL, you see the Patriots just ridiculously kill people in trades. There's just a lot of teams with bad management. I mean, it just takes you to be a little bit smarter than everybody else. So it's definitely an option. They definitely should explore it. If they don't, then obviously they're very set on a guy.
Yeah.
But definitely don't trade up. I mean, there's no reason to trade up. There's not that guy that you need to have on that team to trade up for. Like whoever you can get at that safety spot, they should be good unless they're sure. But I don't see a head and shoulders above everybody else.
That's one of the things that Jake was really talking about. Is this draft is actually really, really deep with safeties. It's really, really deep with tight ends, and it's really, really deep with quarterbacks that you want to develop. And it just seems like it's a deep draft that's not very top heavy, and so I think it's going to be real tough to find a partner willing to trade up. But Trav does make a good point. Watson is the one quarterback that a lot of teams would like, because he looks like he's got the skill set that he can come in and start day one. And at 7, there's a very good possibility that he's going to be available. There's a possibility that somebody might want to draft him and might want to play with us, maybe give us an extra 2nd round pick. I think that's our only shot there, is getting someone to play, as if Watson's available when we draft.
Hey, guys, I got to run, so I got to cut it short, but I will definitely call on next Wednesday, because I got to be somewhere in about 10 minutes. But I will definitely be at Jake's house for the draft, too.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing you there, man. Mikey, I think that pretty much wraps stuff up for us. Is there any other Padre stuff that you wanted to bring up before we go?
No, man. I look forward to talking Padres with you guys. I love it. It's exciting. Again, it's going to be growing pains. We're going to all go through them together. It'll be fun. And I hope we can get Justin on sometime so I can tell him how wrong he is.
Yeah, that's. I was kind of hoping he would be on too. He's got some. He's going on vacation right now. It's funny. We just got off of a month and a half taking a little bit of a sabbatical, and now he's going on vacation. Wow. So he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to be on or not. It was kind of a bummer that he wasn't on. But just curious, do you think that the fans are a little bit overly optimistic on what the Padres are going to do this year? From what I hear, to me it seems like they're a little bit unrealistic in their thoughts. But I'm not listening to everybody. Or do you think people have a more realistic view on the team this year?
I want to say they're just more vocal this year and hopeful because, again, now this is the team that we have to root for in San Diego, So it's kind of like our eggs are in that basket. So it's a little more vocal and hopeful, about what's been sold to us with the fact that this team will be good in 2-3 years. But I think deep down Padres fans know that this is going to be a tough year. And, I mean, again, the starting rotation is where you see it. I mean, I have hope for some of the outfielders. I have hope for the infielders. I have hope for the team. But when you see that pitching, I mean, ouch.
Brutal, yeah.
Too much, yeah.
Brutal, and not a whole lot of stuff coming our way, which is interesting. But this is the type of team, and we play at the type of ballpark that if all of these players develop like we're hoping they will, and the odds of that are very slim. But let's just say for optimism's sake that all of these guys develop into major league talent. You can lure veterans. You could have a 5-man rotation of Perdomo and four vets, and we could win with that. If you have the offensive talent around them, I think luring pitchers to come here is not a problem. I think you can get pitchers, top line pitchers. No, but I don't think we need top line pitchers. I think that we learned what happens when you overspend on pitching.
Right. No. I think that was just, the whole James Shield thing. I mean, he was a dominant pitcher the year before. He was, a top-end starter, and it just didn't work out. I don't know what happened to the guy. He just fell apart, which is crazy because you see guys, like I said, like Ian Kennedy, who come in here, dominate after having an up-and-down career, and then they, Justin's arguing that we should keep this guy, and, he goes off and gets paid big money to go elsewhere. So, It's interesting. I think, like you said, we can attract pitchers. Can we attract batters? I don't think so. Yeah. But
we got to develop hitters, and we can attract the pitchers, and that's what it seems like they're trying to do right now. We'll find out. We know that everything up until this point has not worked, so let's see if maybe this does work.
And one thing that's going to be really important to look at too is the international players, because I was looking at the rankings of the Padre prospects. And, most of these guys that are higher ranked, obviously it's based on potential and what they're going to become. But you see a lot of the international guys are the guys that are highly ranked over some of the guys that you're used to seeing. So, that's going to be something to watch for because that might be where you get your pitching from, even though they're years away. Because what I was looking at earlier was who's close to getting there, who's in AA and AAA pitching-wise. And you really don't have many guys, batters and pitchers in AA, AAA. You're just hoping those international guys that you just signed
right
end up being the ones that make the leap and do what you hope they will do and become those big time studs, because you have some huge names, that Anderson Espinosa guy, Cal Quantrill, which I remember looking at back when they drafted him. So you're just hopeful some of these guys become what you think they might be, but again, that's about 2 years away. So I mean, if you have Perdomo with four guys, and that might be able to get you enough. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. But again, I would be excited about the hitting. There's a lot of good young talent. Again, I love Margot. I think it's gonna be great. I'm worried about Renfroe, but we need to be patient with him. We need to be patient with him. And Jankowski, I don't have super high expectations, but I think Margot can be a star.
Yeah,
I really can.
And let's be honest. You no team. Very rarely do you have three all-stars in your outfield. So you look at Jankowski, and I'm agree with you. I don't see him as a superstar, but I see him as a serviceable, good outfielder who can have maybe have a really, really strong week or two here or there. But if Margot and Renfroe develop into what we expect them to, Jankowski would fit in just fine as a third outfielder.
Yeah, if Renfroe develops into what we expect him to, he's developing into Chris Bryant in the outfield.
Yeah.
That's really, let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
you see the home run power. That's what you're hopeful that he's going to become. But, again, like the Padres will need to find that guy in the draft that comes up really quick, like a Bryce Harper, like a Chris Bryant, a guy that, is just going to be dominant, and he's going to be dominant or become at least, serviceable. Honestly, Renfroe right now reminds me a little bit of Rizzo, like I'm scared that we'll give up on him too quick if he doesn't meet our expectations.
Yeah.
So
we need to see a guy that when we draft him, we still remember him when they bring him up. Because by the time we bring these guys up, we don't remember them anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you have guys that go up there quick. Unfortunately, Trey Turner got up really, really quick.
Yeah.
And that should have been a guy, that we should have in our outfield right now. We're playing second base. But, who knows?
I haven't followed him this year. I know that he had a little bit of a rough spring training. He's one of those guys that I'm really rooting to suck just because we let him go so early. And it hurts so bad when you let a guy go early and he does really good other places. I know it's been early. What are the projections from him this year? Do you think he's going to have a really good year or do you think he's going to struggle?
Yeah, that struggle spring training, he turned it around and ended up batting like 340 by the end of spring training.
Oh, did he? Damn it.
Yeah, he was batting 170 and then like went on a tear or something like that. Ended up batting like 340 or something ridiculous.
Well, you know who did that for us one of his last years here was Jed Jerko. He batted like 175, and then like the spring training the last week, he got real hot and ended up over 300, and look what that did. That didn't work out so well for us. All right, Mikey, I appreciate you coming in and talking Padres with us. Mikey, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Mikey_AHN. Stands for Aztecs Hoops Nation. Go to the website. Check out all Aztecs recruiting articles. He releases them on. He'll announce them on Facebook. You go, of course, on his website, on his Twitter. We're looking forward to talking more Padres with you, but we're looking forward to talking Aztecs when the Aztecs football season starts. Looks like maybe I'll be going to a few Aztecs games this year. I'm looking forward to that, and then of course when we didn't get a chance to talk too much Aztecs basketball, which is probably good because what a throwaway season that was.
Right.
We're hoping that's all that was. We're hoping that was a blip on the radar and not a trend. I don't want to get too much into that because I know it's a little bit painful.
No problem. Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming in, Mikey, and contributing. We look forward to it each week, and hopefully next week you're available again.
I appreciate it, and just a heads up, Renfroe hit a home run today already. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
all right. They should sign him to an extension. All right, Mikey. We'll talk to you next week, man.
See you, Jason.
All right, man. So that was Mike Maciejewski from Aztecs Hoops Nation. That's going to wrap things up for us this week. We appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. It's we had a few technical difficulties, of course, trying to get people on and off. It's a tough thing to do while you're trying to talk and keep the show running, and then also try and bring people in. So we did not get requested in there. I'm really bummed about that because I know he was looking forward to coming on, but we couldn't make that happen. So we will try again next week. We will be talking about the Chargers, what they should be looking for drafting on the defensive side of the ball. Until then, San Diego Sports Junkies, I appreciate you listening, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans. Brought to you by Cali Comfort, home of the low and slow barbecue, and SK Digital Imaging with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmoe, and Mike Maciejewski. Subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and on iTunes. Visit SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com for all your Chargers, Padres, and Aztecs news.